Guys, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz and we're going to be talking about some murder today. Today we're going to be talking about the Servant Girl Annihilator, also known as the Austin Axe Murderer, also known as the Midnight Assassin. Now this is an unidentified serial killer who killed and preyed upon Austin, Texas between 1884 and 1885. This was a series of 8 murders. That has been referenced as the Servant Girl murders. And basically, the summation of this is that these murders were committed by some madman who is insane in the subject, like insane on the subject of killing women. These were an early example of a serial killer in the United States. And this happened 3 years prior to Jack the Ripper and the murders that took place in Whitechapel. I might cover him. I might. We'll see. We will see. Yeah. So, according to most sources, is that this killer murdered 7 women and 1 black man, and additionally injured 6 women and 2 men. All of them were indoors while they were attacked. They were asleep in their beds. 5 women were dragged and they were unconscious but still alive and killed outside. 3 of the women were severely mutilated. And all the victims were posed in a very similar manner. And 6 of the murdered women had a sharp object inserted into their ears. So these series of murders ended with the killing of 2 white women, and that was Phillips, she was 17, and Susan Hancock. Now, Susan Hancock was attacked while sleeping in the bed of her 16-year-old child on the night of Christmas Eve in 1885. There was only one person arrested, and that was a man named James Phillips. He was found guilty of murdering his wife, but the conviction was later overturned. This was on front page news of the New York Times at the time, and December 26th of 1885. That's really when everything was like, this dude is killing people. It's everywhere. All in all, there was about 400 men that were arrested over the course of the year of 1885 for these crimes. And according to the Texas Monthly, elected officials refused to believe that just one man or group of men were responsible for these murders. So the African American community was really stunned by this, and some of the practitioners of voodoo believed that the killer was a Caucasian male who had magic powers that enabled him to become invisible, as no dogs outside were alerted that when he would hop in fences or go into fenced-in yards adjacent to the locations where the murders happened. Because, if the dog saw them, then they would bark. It would cause an alarm. And, well, shit, somebody's in my yard. These series of murders stopped when additional police officers were brought in, rewards were offered, and citizens formed a vigilance committee. Yeah, vigilance committee that ended up patrolling the streets at night, so kind of like a night watch. There have been recent newspapers that have reported that the murderers had apparently fled, and as there was no murders, that officially happened after when they stopped. And also they didn't find out who the killer was. So our first victim in this case is Molly Smith. She was 25. She was murdered on the 30th of December of 1884. And a man named Walter Spence was seriously wounded within this attack time frame. And then we have Clara Strand and Christine Martinson. They were two Swedish servants, and they were seriously wounded on the 19th of March of 1885. Eliza Shelley would be the next to be murdered, and that was the 6th of May of 1885. Irene Cross, she was killed by knife on the evening of the 22nd of May of 1885. Clara Dick was seriously wounded in August of 1885. Then we have Mary Ramey. She was 11. She was murdered on the 30th of August of 1885, and her mother, Rebecca Ramey, was seriously wounded with this attack. Grace Vance and her boyfriend, Orange Washington, they were murdered the night of 28th of September of 1885. Susan Hancock was murdered on the 24th of December, and so was Eula Phillips on the 24th of December of 1885. So those are the last two in this case. Now, there were eyewitness accounts that came out when it came to what people saw. Apparently, this killer varied in complexion and everything. So some reported him as being a Caucasian male. Somebody said he was dark-skinned. Another one said he was a yellow man wearing a lamp back to conceal his color. Basically, lamp back is carbon that you put on your face or your body to, like, I don't recommend it because that is very lethal to have on your body. Very lethal. But yeah, just painted it on himself to conceal his skin color. And it was also stated that he was wearing kind of like a very like Victorian-esque dress, or a man wearing a slouch hat, which this type of hat is relatively worn with like older military fashions, and a man wearing a hat and a white rag that covered the lower part of his face. So there's a lot of different eyewitness accounts when it comes to what he looked like. And there were also reports that the killer had an accomplice or belonged with a gang of murderers. So there's like, it's wild. All of these thoughts, they're all wild. So 19th of November of 1888, the Austin American Statesman reported that a Malaysian cook was suspected in the Jack the Ripper murders. And it also reported that the Malaysian cook had been employed at a small hotel in Austin in 1885. So they thought that was the connection between the two cases. And the newspaper reported that when they called on the person that ran the Pearl House, Mrs. Schmidt, they received the information that a Malaysian cook calling himself Maurice had been employed at the house in 1885, but he left in January of 1886, so right after the final murder happened. And it had been remembered that the last part of the killings of the Servant Girl Annihilator happened in December of 1885, just before Maurice had left. And then the series abruptly ended. And it's presumed that Maurice was responsible for the murders of all of the people in Austin. But there's no credible way to verify whether that's accurate. So they largely compared this case with Jack the Ripper because of how close it was when it came to the style of murder in itself. But so in July of 2014, there was a show on PBS called History Detectives, and it aired the episode about this. And they used a combination of obviously historical research, and they also used psychological and geological profiling, and they identified a suspect, and that is Nathan Elgin. Nathan Elgin was a 19-year-old African-American cook. Elgin worked very close to the crime scenes, and he was missing his little toe, so one of the crime scenes, there's a footprint, and in the footprint, they're missing a toe. And this is why they they thought that he fell in line with this because he was missing a toe and it matched that footprint. So in February of 1886, shortly after the last murder, Elgin was actually shot and killed by cops while he was trying to assault a girl with a knife. So that could have been another reason why all of these ended. But so there was a short story written by O. Henry, and he was living in Austin at the time of the murders. And this is a lot of like where the name Servant Girl Annihilator comes from. And basically this is the way that this case has stayed in the forefront, because not a lot of people pay attention on unidentified serial killers either. Like John Doe's, Jane Doe's, unidentified serial killers. And I mean, we know who they are, but we don't know who killed them. You know what I mean? A lot of them just get swept under the rug. Or if they're similar to another case, so like this one with the Whitechapel murders, that's why. So that, my friends, is the Servant Girl Annihilator case. I know it's an oldie. Yeah, I might do another axe murder. I have no idea. But the day I'm recording this is when I believe Hannah Dustin goes up. So I hope you guys enjoy, and keep on keeping on, and keep on coming back and watching some more true crime. Bye, you guys.